everyone, it's Sarah, Painter Creator here, and just whilst we were online having a chat, a watercolour chat Zoom, some people were asking about sort of simpler ways of doing things that are less energy intensive, and one of the little bits that I shared was around using sponges. So this is just a piece of a scourer sponge that I've just picked some little pieces off to make the surface less even, but you can buy offcuts of sea sponges which are really lovely. I've got a couple of different ones here, and they're really good for doing bushes, trees, that sort of texture. So I thought we'd just have a little play. So I've just got an A5 sheet of paper, and as you've seen, I've just spritzed it. I'm using my usual cotton watercolour brushes, paints, my medium mop brushes, maybe a couple of others along the way, probably a rigger brush if we're going to do trees. So I thought we would just have a quick little play. So I'm just going to pick up some Cobalt Blue on my, so I've spritzed my paper already. So Cobalt Blue straight on in. We'll have a nice bright sunny day with some clouds, plenty of water. I'm quite happy for it to go quite a way down today, so I just want it, it's not about the sky. I'm just going to use a scrunched up tissue just to lift off some clouds. Blob up those hard lines too. So I'll bring it across. So I'll just let that dry. I just drop in a little bit more blue into that top of the wash, because the sky is normally darker at the top and lighter at the bottom. Also helps the clouds stand out a little bit. So whilst that's drying, I'm going to just make a little bit of light red into this cerulean blue, sorry, cobalt blue, to make a grey, and just put a little bit of shape into the clouds. Nothing too fancy, we're just having a bit of a play. Okay, let's give that a dry with the hairdryer. Here we are, we've given it a dry off with the hairdryer. It's reasonably dry. So I'm going to mix up a light green. So I'm going to use some Hooker's Green Light, normal Hooker's Green rather than Hooker's Green Dark, with a little bit of cadmium yellow in there. But you could use any green and any yellow together. You could mix your own as well. As you can see, it's quite watery, so I'm just going to strengthen that a little bit. So Hooker's Green and some cadmium yellow. Hooker's Green's a really good green to mix, and I'm going to just use a little bit of that Cobalt Blue, and I'm going to put in some cadmium yellow into there. So I've got two sort of lighter greens, so a little bit of Hooker's Green with a little bit of ultramarine blue in there. So that's a darker green, all in the same family. A little bit of hooker's green. And then some burnt sienna. And then one more. I'm going to go for some hooker's green. And some yellow ochre. Oh, might need to put more green in there. It's gone a bit yellow. And then I'm just going to go for some ultramarine blue and a little bit of hooker's green, but mainly ultramarine blue with a touch of burnt sienna in there for a nice dark green. So I might need a bit more, put a bit too much green in there. Always keep mixing until you get the colours that you're after. So as you can see, it's quite well mixed on the palette. They're all a bit watery. So now I'm going to use this sponge. So this was off my scourer and I'm just wetting it with a bit of water. And I've squeezed it out so there's no water, it's damp, and I'm just going to pick up gently some on a sponge, and I can just dab and change direction, creating those sort of first layers of leaves for some trees. So this was my next lightest, so I'm just going to go in same. Just gentle dabs. So I could go in with this one, so I'm just going to wet this, squeeze the water out, so the sponge itself is moist but not wet. And then I can go in with maybe this one, so just a little bit on the sponge. And you're just picking up little bits and touching to start to make the shape of the trees. So at this point I'm just going to think, right, okay, I'm going to put a couple of trees on, or maybe 3. I've got a blob of water, maybe 2 or 3 trees here, and I want the sun to be coming either that way or that way. So I think I'm going to just draw the sun on. So my sun, I think, is coming from this direction. So I think it's coming that way. So I need to leave the lights here, and so you'll have the darks underneath. So still with my little sponge, picking up. So I'm thinking, right, okay, I need some darker marks in this tray and here on this side. So I could go back to my little scourer sponge, give it a wash out, squeeze out, so there's no water on it, pick up a bit of this nice bluey and just little tiny painty blobs. And this is my very dark, so if you're not sure, if you think you might have too much, just tap it on a brush, on a paper towel, just like you would with your brush. And then just wash it out in some clean water. So again, I can use this sponge that I was using, washed out in clean water, give it a good squeeze. And you can get these sponges from all sorts of sort of hobby shops and craft shops. If you've got a friend who's finished with a sea sponge, they might be kind enough to donate it your way for a price for painting. And just play. So when you've got your tree to the point where you're happy, you can go back in with a brush if you wanted. I quite like them loose like this, quite like the little bits that come, so we're just going to let that dry for a little minute, and then I'm going to just get my small mop brush and I'm going to mix up some burnt umber. I'm just going to paint on some. I need just a drop more water in the mix. Touch it on a paper towel. Drop a little bit of brown as if there's, and I'm just going to get a little brush. I could use my little rigger brush, touch it on a paper towel, and then I can just do some little points of some branches poking up, all while this is sort of quite damp. And then perhaps we're on a bit of a grassy hillside, so I'm going to carry on using these colours that are on my palette just to, this is just that hooker's green and cadmium yellow with a touch of that burnt umber in because it was in my brush. A bit of this olivey colour. So I'm just going to touch a bit of Payne's grey into this dark colour. So I'm remembering that the sun's coming from the right, so I'm just going to drop a little bit of shadow colour into this shadow side of the tree, and I go into the back to my little rigger brush, my little mop brush, sorry. Just going to drop a bit more of the colour into this foreground. So I'm just going to get my mister bottle and I'm just going to put a bit of texture into that foreground. It'll just help it meld together with it. So just let that dry and just soften that little bit there. There we go. So whilst that's doing, I'm going to mix a shadow colour. So ultramarine blue, a little bit of light red. And quite a lot of water. Actually, I'm going to drop a bit of alizarin crimson in there as well. That's better. And nice shadow colour. Plenty of water. So you can make shadow colours purpler or redder. So I'm just dropping some shadow now down into this tray, and I'm going to drop some shadow in this space underneath. So this is damp into damp, and it just gives your branches in your tree a little bit more sort of movement and belonging. I think it's a nice way of grounding a tree as well. So where the trees join is normally a bit heavier on the shadow. Where branches join, should I say, not trees. It just helps give that feeling of 3D, just a damp brush. I'll drop a bit more brown into there. There we go. Nice. So today I think we might have a bird or two in the air, because my paintings won't be the same without birds. So birds are a bit like a tick with a blob. Just gonna do that one again. I think it's a bit too much of a blob. But And then we could have a little bit of burnt sienna. For a couple of people's faces. Just lift some of that darkness off this side. Just a damp brush. I think I'm going to go for a nice bright pink. A little bit of turquoise, I think, for this person's. Let me just get a bit more water on my brush. Just a bit of shadow colour in this turquoise, make a sort of leg colour. Drop a bit of that shadow. I think this one could have a little bit of a picnic basket or something going on. Carrying something. A bit of a shadow colour down that side. And then maybe a little dog off snuffling. Again, I'm just going to pick some of that shadow colour up. Pop a bit more burnt sienna into the doggle. And then lift it off with a damp brush. Going for a nice stroll. There we go. A nice day. A little stroll under there. So I hope that's been useful for you. Let's just take, always peel the tape away. A nice little stroll through the woods on a nice day. So I hope you have a nice day and enjoy playing with your sponges.